Every league has this guy where they have a type for free agent waiver claims. And every league has a guy who his type is a guy that changes position, right? Gandy Golden just changed the tight end. Somebody picks him up. It's like he changed the tight end. That worked with Logan Thomas if you were early on that train. So
Darren
Waller, position change guy. So Delaney Walker, we could keep going on this now.
That took a while, but yeah, they got there eventually.
You're exactly right. Okay, so this guy changed from linebacker to running back and just burst on the scene for Baylor this past year. Abram Smith is the guy I'm going to be talking about. With undrafted free agents, I like to follow the money. And Abram Smith got one of the top 5 highest guaranteed monies of any rookie at $222,000 this year. He's 6 foot 213, and he plays running back like a linebacker. Can guarantee it. 1,600 rushing yards this past year, 12 touchdowns in his 3rd season. I think it was his first full season playing running back. And we're talking about the Saints, Peter. Not trying to wish ill on a former Vol, but Alvin Kamara, who knows? And Mark Ingram
that's the thing. You don't need Alvin Kamara to step aside when he's mostly a receiver. He's like, I'll be good. I'll just get 2,000 yards over here in the receiving game. I'm good. Well, not too.
That's a team.
You know what I mean? There's room for a rusher.
Yeah. If that's a team that's going to get in the red zone, right? So if Abram Smith becomes their goal line back, which at 6 foot 213, a former linebacker, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities. They obviously like the guy. Do you have any stats on him? Because he's a guy that I want to roster, and I've seen drafted in 5th rounds of rookie drafts.
I don't hate it in your 5th round. You know, that guy who's probably going to be dropped as your first waiver claim comes in. If your rookie draft even goes to 5 rounds, most don't anymore. But yeah, I think there are essentially 3 types. Since we're talking about undrafted free agents, there are basically 3 boxes we end up putting them in, and you have to dig in deeper. But what type of player, what type of potential prospect is this player that's deeper down the roster? And I really think you can talk about 5th, 6th, 7th round picks in the same vein. There's a guy who is underproductive, but is in an interesting situation. That's essentially what we're talking about with Bryant Kovac. I don't think he stood out. He's an older prospect who played at a decent place and did okay. Let's face it, what he did in college, he was better at something than I'll ever be at anything. Let's not insult the man too much, okay? Like, he's impressive, but that's essentially what he is in terms of whether he'll assume a role for fantasy football. Then there's a guy who looks underproductive, or in fact looks terrible, but it's for reasons. You have to dig in to find it, but like, it's because he was playing a different position, or because he was injured, or because, you know, he literally stepped onto the field for 1 year just because he was done with his basketball career or whatever. And they're weirdos, but if you look at their stats and take into the context, you can see how maybe they were actually really good, but we didn't get to see the full story.
Yeah.
A name to put on that is someone like Tyreek Hill. That's the epitome of it, right? The guy who played utility player, whatever that means. And obviously in college and in the NFL has a plethora of off-field trouble that is horrific, but it's why he probably didn't look good. Now, I think that's a box we can kind of fit Smith in that he was playing mostly linebacker and was mostly a kind of an he didn't do much at linebacker either. And I did, like I said, I didn't think he was playing running back 1 year and got like 6 carries or something silly. But then in his last year, and there is something called senior difference, teams know players are leaving. They've been working hard on the depth chart for years, and you will tend to lean towards your seniors. They know the playbook better. They're bigger. They're stronger. They've probably got the locker room on lockdown more than anyone else. So there's a difference towards seniors anyway. Yeah. And this linebacker who's done nothing and is huge and apparently can rush a little bit, that might have been what's going on. And he's playing in the Big 12, so it's not like nowhere. He wasn't rushing against, just car salesmen, future car salesmen, but some of what's going on there is probably that he was just a senior and he's big and they needed a running back, and the linebacker who's not doing anything gets it. And that probably means, like Tyreek Hill, like we had to see them, like the team has to be invested for that kind of player. And it's only recently teams have really shown willing to invest time in someone who's undrafted or lower drafted, because they basically have to teach them the position. I mean, 1,600 yards sounds good. So does 1.8 yards per team attempt or 1.9 adjusted yards per team attempt. Not much of a receiver, even in that last year. To be clear, this is a rusher linebacker.
You don't need him to be right if Kamara's there.
Exactly, and he probably did it because he's big and playing in college. So even if he got opportunity on the Saints, you've got to assume he's learning the position still, especially for the NFL level. I mean, we think of the running back position as simpler, to be fair, run at line, but I'm definitely assuming it's more complicated than that. It's very simple for a moron out him like me who's like getting run at by superhumans trying to take you down. It probably takes a little bit more than just being able to run fast and be big. So there is more to learn. But I do think it's interesting that he's weird, that he was a linebacker, that maybe if he did play 3 years, he would have learned the position. And the Saints have taken a shot on him. And it's not like they can find other rushers. That's the one thing we know about running backs. You can find Damian Harris's. You can find players that can fill the gap, to be fair. But they have maybe given Smith a chance to learn the position and be that guy for them. And so I like him. I like the weirdos, especially in undrafteds, because then you get to look back and say the reason they weren't drafted at all was because they were weird. They had to learn instead of just hoping that it's because every NFL team made a mistake. And so that's why I kind of know a little bit more about Abram Smith, because he is weird. It's weird. He was a linebacker, played 1 season. There's like one other running back in this class I think comes close to a 1,600-yard season, and it's in the Big 12. It's not like it's in the MAC West. Yeah. So, that's why I looked into him a little bit more. I like that weird box.
I love the fact that he's on the Saints, because when you think of some undrafted hits, the Saints have had some of the best ones in recent years. I think back to, I'm going to age myself a little bit, but I think back to Chris Ivory, who had absolutely, talk about weird. He had no college production, right? And just kind of came onto the scene. And I think the year before that, or maybe the year after Chris Ivory, they had another undrafted guy that looked really good in the preseason. Of course, Marquez Callaway in more recent time. Who was the Tony Jones? Wasn't he undrafted last year? Am I off on that?
Yeah. So he's definitely lower, if not undrafted. But
yeah. So they're not afraid to let guys like that make the roster. They're known for that. So I'm excited about Abram Smith. As much as you can be excited about these,
as much as he can be. Yeah. I hope he stays on the roster. Let's go, Abram.
Hey, if Alvin Kamara gets suspended the first 4 games, you're going to be stoked about having Mr. Abram Smith in the 5th rounder.
I don't know about stoked, but I get what you mean. Yeah.
Well, it depends what your roster looks like. You're going to be excited if you can trade him for a 3rd, right?
Yes.
Hey, it's the stock market. It's the stock market with players.
Kind of.